morning, brothers and sisters. I'm Brother Victor Williams, PhD. I am a Grandmaster. I'm also a worthy patron. I'm a member of the Masonic Philosophical Society. I'm a member of the Philately Society. I'm enrolled in the Masonic Institute of Fine Arts, and I as well attend the Masonic Seminar Series. I am a fifth degree Episcopos. I'm also one of the managers of the New Discordian Society. So I want to take this opportunity to extend appreciation and a warm thanks and welcome to Grandmaster Crowley, who installed me as Grandmaster most recently, and all of you Discordians who are here able to attend this lecture. This lecture, I hope, is found helpful to one of the members on our Facebook group page, whose comments or questions about some of the posts related to our organization. Of course, in that they were inspiring enough to me when I came across them to do this lecture. Over time, I hope to look at it again and learn something that I missed, So I want to talk about the rite of strict observance, right? We all know. I'm going to make a disclaimer that I'm only basing my input on, opinion. In no way whatsoever, no matter what the weather is like, do I suggest anyone perceive or interpret this lecture as a representation of Freemasonry, right? Nor any individual member. Okay. So I want to talk about the rite of strict observance, and because there's a lot of it that has been posted recent weeks on our page, on our society, and we are we're very familiar with the practice of the rite as enlightened Masons. And, I suppose for pride or education, I would not rule that out in the House of Errors, no matter what other houses exist, right? Where there are enlightened Masons as members there, right? Because Grandmaster Crowley is very creative, a very generating, a productive, prosperous example for us, right? When you get in the fraternity, what do you do once what you are doing or what you do is learning more about how to govern oneself or how this fraternity is going to benefit you. The rules, the bylaws, the Constitution, the tenets, the virtues, its structure, right? Working with it until you've come to satisfaction about your grip on it, your handling of it, right? And so that when you are made and you have a Masonic light, what do you do then? That does not include, though it might involve, does not include in your contemplation, it does not include, let's say you don't foresee this, maybe it happens, it's inevitable, but you don't include such a concentration cycle as what is in the very beginning of membership when you're wanting to become that image or the product of Freemasonry, right? What do we do looking at membership or initiation as a middle point between what it is that we do from A to B, right? And not letting it change our foundation, but definitely being aware that it does impact it and affect it. And it's possible to do that without per se letting it create the change. When we are aware of what it is where we are experiencing first, when we're conscious of what it is that we're going through, we can't really necessarily say that we are letting anything happen. We're aware, we're recognizing it, we're acknowledging it, right? We're observing it, but we are not letting it. Right? So I'm going to say about it, I thought this seems to be a good time to grab one of these posts, the content, the substance of it, the one that particularly is getting the most comments of value, right? And do a lecture, because that's obviously what people are wanting. That's possibly what the Inquisition or the commenting is encompassing. It's just to take a deeper delve, and perhaps this is not, quite as much of a desire to, by text, send that comment through the group, right? But to put those little fragments in, little hints, if you will, here and there on things that, given which it is the case, us as enlightened Masons, we're really going to pick up on and understand why there is a comment about something that is posted there, because we're the ones who are posting it, and it's based on our curriculum, our agenda, right? Our passion, our goals, right? And our, desires and dreams and beliefs. And all of that is a solidifying aspect to look at in Freemasonry when we are really in the learning mode about education in Freemasonry. Yeah. So it makes logical sense to comment on things and then to hone in after seeing them and say, well, this one gets a lot of attention or a lot of comments. This is a popular, subject or topic. And that's what I did with the Rite of Strict Observance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Two things that are important to know about the Rite are also going to be touched upon as we get to that point. But the rite of strict observance, let's start here. Hail Aries. It was the largest and most widespread Freemasonic umbrella organization in Europe that imploded with a massive impact on the world of Freemasonry in 1782. The same year when Illuminati began their rapid growth of 3 years before they imploded in turn from 1786 throughout 1787 and ceased to exist altogether by August 1788. The Rite of Strict Observance imploded in 1782. Illuminati imploded 4 years later for 1 year, after 3 years of rapid growth from 1782. It began in either 1751 or 1764, depending on how we define their beginning. Now, it has not disappeared altogether, right? It lives on in the Swedish Rite. Okay? Swedish Masons affiliated with the Rite of Strict Observance only in 1778, after the death of their founder Baron von Hund in 1776, and withdrew from the affiliation or the practice of the rite in 1780, having constructed their own distinct form of Freemasonry on top of the superstructure of the Rite of Strict Observance rituals, retaining ritual elements from the earlier degrees of Carl Friedrich Eckloff. Duke Karl revised the Rite of Strict Observance rituals and constructed additional degrees, giving his new system its own distinct national flavor of Freemasonry. Hail Aries. It is also known as the Order of the Temple. Right? It was most influential as the Masonic system in the 18th century in Germany and possibly on the European continent. Pretty big, pretty influential. It is also known, to be the first Masonic system to transition fully into a secret society. And that's very important and significant, because I've talked about this before, lecturing on the 8 circuits of consciousness and providing a little bit of background to make that subject relevant to enlightened Masons. And we found out that Illuminati itself is not the same concept as the Masonic or the Illuminati Masonic lodges. That in some grade in what is an Illuminati Masonic society, and it's just not just general illumination or one's personal belief to have the gift of illumination. This is a very logical social organization form, right? Of more than one, right? That is when, whether it is Illuminati, whether it is cheeseburger, whether it is Baskin Robbins 31st flavor, whether it is Best Buy most affordable appliance on the shelf as we speak, when it becomes by mutual agreement among other individuals, even if they're all co-workers in this one entity, or all of their associates or friends or aggregates, and they're employed in various directions or separate from one another, when they mutually decide to form a society from wherever they've come from, they become a society then. a group, an organization, a fraternity, they are going to produce a different type of work ethic, if you will, a method that is agile, because they all group that's different from what one single person is going to be looking into or looking forward to doing in this very same endeavor, right? This is because we've got our own individuality to work with, our own independent ways of thinking and acting, and our own desires to make choices we make. We've got to conform that type of right or privilege and make a concession for space, right? For dimensional space where others are also inspired by the environment and becoming self-aware of it, and or as well untangibly, momentously changing their choices about things, right? Until they finally verbally communicate what it is that is on his or her mind, right? Before then, could have been the entire 40 minutes past that they wanted to be verbally communicatable and have been trying to decide what is the right way psychologically to present what it is that they are thinking about. When and where, appropriation, words, context, right? Comprehension and cognition. And so when we talk about Illuminati, that's one thing. And then when we talk about an Illuminati-based society or organization, we are not talking anymore about just the illumination philosophy of Illuminati. We are in an organization with appendant bodies, with grand lodges, with jurisdictions at least, right? And that is what makes the difference for someone who's not specific and just says, for example, I wonder what's going on in the world of the Illuminati. From someone who says, I wonder what in the world is going on in the world of the Illuminati Masonic lodges. Illuminati of Avignon, Illuminati of USA, Order of Illuminati, Bavarian Illuminati. It makes a difference when you're specific, because members or individuals who have been known to be Illuminatis, because they've disclosed this information. There is no record of who is a member, because there is no membership. It's all independent, and there is no record of who's an Illuminati and who isn't. Records come into those who are in Illuminati Masonic organizations, right? And so to be specific is to make, reality of the fact of the matter that, there comes a point in the progression through the degrees where, unlike in just classical Illuminati or illumination, there is a ceremony where the initiate is being given secret passwords, secret Illuminati Masonic grips, secret Illuminati Masonic signs, etc. Right? That's not the curriculum of your common, natural, sort of holistic, covered illumination perspective. This is something that is involving multiple personalities, all in a fraternity. Day to day is a lifetime based membership, and so it's pretty important that the Rite of Strict Observance was the first Masonic system to transition fully into a secret society, complete with order name alias for the members and an inner and outer order, supposedly being led by unknown superiors. Right? So they also have had geographical names for cities, as well as its own calendar system. These Masons were said to possess the true secrets of Freemasonry, and according to their liturgy, claim to directly descend from the Knights Templar in an unbroken chain of successive Grand Masters under this rite. From its ashes has come the Zinzendorf Rite, also the Swedish Rite, where it is said, as we said early on, mentioned early on, it lives on in the Swedish Rite. An Order of Illuminati, the name that was given to the Covenant of Perfectibility after the Covenant of Perfectibility was deemed too strange for a title or of a title for the secret society that was established by Brother Weishaupt, the founder of Bavarian Illuminati. Before the word Illuminati was a part of this name and his creation, when he was a professor of law in Ingolstadt, that included 4 students, all of them known as the Perfectibilists. So, after he established the Covenant of Perfectibility, which was destined to become Order of Illuminati, we know today Bavarian Illuminati, as well as Illuminati Masonic Order, a branch of Freemasonry, Illuminati, since 1785, we will know that he became a Freemason and joined a year after the establishment, the Covenant of Perfectibility. And after, by the way, discouraging generally joining Freemasonry, because his thoughts of Freemasonry was that Freemasonry is expensive, right? After he established and founded the Covenant of Perfectibility, later to be known as Order of Illuminati, he in 1777, that's later I'll talk about, is a year afterwards, give or take a few, he founds the organization of the society in 1776, and in 1777 he is admitted into Prudence Lodge under the Rite of Strict Observance, the Grand Lodge of Prussia. So he joins Freemasonry. He needs his hands on the higher degrees, those higher mysteries, mystery schools. The wisdom and knowledge of the masters of wisdom is what he wants. And he's got an idea, he's got a pretty healthy hunch that if he is able to get his society as strong as he really feels and desires it to be, Freemasonry is offering the materials that will enable or allow him to do that, will facilitate it, right? Make it feasible. So Order of Illuminati, formerly Covenant of Perfectibility, also is from its ashes, right? It's being the Rite of Strict Observance. Freemasonry is intertwined into the history of the Enlightenment, right? It's founded on and dedicated to self-perfection, the equality of men, and self-governance. Now, the first one I named, self-perfection, is to be done through a moral application of unique symbols and allegories. And the equality of men, that second one I mentioned, the equality of men, it goes along with Freemasonry and our saying of hope, charity, and faith, right? We've got faith in the great architect of the universe. We've got hope for salvation, and we've got charity among all men. So fitting it in there into charity and the equality of men, we also know it's of our information materials here in Freemasonry, that we meet upon the level of equality act by the plumb of uprightness, and part upon the square of virtues. So again, about all men, well, we meet upon the level of equality. So there's the equality of men on the level. We learn in the working tools in the 3 degrees of Freemasonry. Right? That's quality or equality. And then with the men part, well, we've got charity among all men. And there's a whole load of stuff we could learn throughout other monitors that talk about men and as Masons, right? The man as a Mason. Self-governance, that last one I mentioned, is under the divine guidance of deity, right? Is, commonly Masonic lodges require belief in a higher God, a higher entity, a deity, the creator, the divine creator, G for God, for acceptance to membership into a Masonic lodge, right? That question usually is during the pre-investigation interview process, upon when he who's desiring a rough Ashlaw wants to become a perfect Ashlaw and just does not know that yet, but does know Freemasonry seems to have a connection for him and to this other side of him that he can see through his sociological imagination wherever he goes in his respective days of the week, right? Year by year, right? And so he's asked the question, and along with that, perhaps he's considered any other lodges and maybe given some that he might want to consider, that he should consider, rather, in addition to this one he has initially sought out and found, right? So it is fraternity bound by common initiation ceremonies, right? It was constructed to attract the most wealthy and influential Freemasons, this rite of strict observance, right? Number one, to do that, it's had expensive initiations, right? Another thing, expensive dues, elaborate costumes, elaborate regalia, rich ceremonies, and lavish conventions. At a convention, the rite of strict observance was activated. It went into cycle, into approval. And at a convention is when it, so to speak, disappeared. Right? A system of 6 degrees, it is, being supposedly led by unknown superiors. Eventually, a financial charity scheme was established, much in the same vein as the charity scheme of the Premier Grand Lodge of England. Now, who could become a member, one might ask? The liturgy in the ritual of the rite is broadly constructed upon landmarks, making them acceptable with respect to regularity, but differ, however, in key places in the ritual. See? The tracing boards of each degree differ from the standard rituals offered in other lodges at that time. Right? So law of modified change, variation, words can really blow up or explode outside of the actual framework of it, if you will, with regard as it is concerned with Masonic principles. In an educational, on an educational platform, which just so happens that this rite, again, as it was constructed to attract the most wealthy and influential Freemasons, is not, an illusion about, right? Education is very important. If you can imagine the wealthiest of Freemasons, the most influential of Freemasons, then we're not talking undereducated, right? Chances are. And so the liturgy in the ritual of the rite is broadly constructed upon Christianity and is specifically upon the betrayal of Jacques de Molay and the restoration of the Templar order. So that is where it, in terms of this fraternity's rite with regard to rituals, one can expect to grow from, right? To develop from, in terms of who you as an enlightened Mason become once you are one of the Rite strict observance students, or the word prefects, right? The first three symbolic degrees retain the so-called ancient landmarks, making them the acceptable, thing with respect to regularity, but differ, however, in key places in the ritual. Right, so those degrees are in here and there, and some of them over there and over there as well. Right. The governance of it has two levels, one administrative and one local. The Minerval assemblies, if you want to know about the Minervals, you've heard of those and seen that term when studying the degrees over the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, 33 degrees, the operative rite of illuminated ones of Bavaria, the rite of strict observance, things that are in the Illuminati Masonic lodges, at least the Bavarian Illuminati, or House of Theodore of the Good Counsel, originally the first lodge this Bavarian Illuminati was dispensated to set up. The Minerval assemblies, which are the preparatory order, which is in Illuminati, but it's not in Freemasonry. Preparatory meaning non-Masonic, are unique to the Illuminati. They are unique in this preparatory order in comparison to the degrees of Freemasonry, when the Freemasonic order, it is not preparatory. The Minerval assemblies, the preparatory order, unique to the Illuminati, is included at the local level and subordinate to the St. John's Lodge, which each is in Freemasonry and is also in Illuminati, as well as the St. Andrew's Lodge, right? So let's look at the administrative level and the rite of strict observance, and the administrative level, on the other hand, of the Illuminati. The rite of strict observance has a province Grand Master. And in Illuminati, there's a national level with a regent or with regents. Regents, right? And then the rite of strict observance has a prefecture, which has a prefect, right? A prefect, a student, a high-achieving, highly scholared student who's given the right to exercise or practice authority, right? Instead of a prefecture or a prefect in the same respect of it, in an administrative level perspective. The Illuminati does have a prefecture, but does not have a prefect. It rather has priests, right? And that's the differences on the administrative level between the Rite of Strict Observance and the Illuminati. The Rite of Strict Observance has a province and the province Grand Master, and the Illuminati has national regents. The Rite of Strict Observance has a prefecture and a prefect. Not perfect, prefect. And the Illuminati also with the prefecture does not, on the other hand, have a prefect, rather priests. And that's it to the administrative level. There are two levels to governance in the Rite of Strict Observance, aren't there? The other one is the local level. On the local level, let's start again with the Rite of Strict Observance, and then we'll go to the Illuminati. On the Rite of Strict Observance side, we have chapter. And it's of the 5th and the 6th degree. And the local side, local level, the Illuminati also has a chapter, but does not the 5th or 6th degree, has priests in the chapter. Right? Instead of just those 2 degrees, the 5th and the 6th degree, or in the Rite of Strict Observance, and the local level, starting out with the chapter. After the chapter, we get to St. Andrew's Lodge. We can get balance here between the Rite of Strict Observance and Illuminati, because each one of them are using the St. Andrew's Lodge. Difference is, in the Rite of Strict Observance, in St. Andrew's Lodge, there's only the 4th degree to it. While in the Illuminati, in the St. Andrew's Lodge, there's the Scottish Novices and the Scottish Knights, 2 degrees. After the St. Andrew's Lodge, we get to St. John's Lodge, which is also in each of them, the Rite of Strict Observance and Illuminati. And in the St. John's Lodge, we are concerned with the 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree of Freemasonry. Not preparatory order. In other words, it's Masonic. Right? In the St. John's Lodge, in the Illuminati, here's the pine, the balance, the match actually. It is also concerned working with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degrees of Freemasonry. However, it is a preparatory order that exists in Illuminati. Remember, that does not exist in Freemasonry. And so there are the Minerval assemblies, where you begin in Illuminati as a novice, not an entered apprentice. And then to a Minerval instead of a fellow craft mason. And then to a Minervalis Illuminatus instead of a master mason. And now we're in Freemasonry where you're a master mason, you're going to the higher degrees, you're going to, the York Rites of the Scottish Rite. In the Illuminati, you are just now ready to start as an entered apprentice, the 1st degree of Freemasonry. And so Illuminati has a preparatory order before you get into the degrees of Freemasonry. Whereas the Rite of Strict Observance gets right into the 1st degree entered apprentice. You don't become a novice first. House of Aries, you don't become a neophyte first. And then a legionnaire deacon. And then a chaplain or priest. And then a high priest or a polyfather. And then a pope or holy discordian pope. As are the degrees in the house of the polytheo meta-animistic-hood of Aries Esoteric, the POEE. In the Rite of Strict Observance, you go right into entered apprentice. right? From the Templar perspective, but let me do say about the Minerval assemblies before it slips my mind. It is also, though the Minerval assemblies, I've started to mention the preparatory order. When we got to Minerval assemblies, an important thing to signify the Minerval assemblies is that it is working the third degree, just that one. But due to the preparatory order, I just want to show how you start out in the Illuminati, you start in the Rite of Strict Observance, and one of them kind of goes, a little faster than the other in terms of degrees, because you are not in a preparatory order in one of them while you are in the other. And you would initiate at the very beginning of each of them, right? But the way they're structured or designed and constructed, you start at the Rite of Strict Observance, and another person starts in Illuminati, you start at the same day. One's going to start as an entered apprentice, one's going to start as a novice. They still have each started, but one's got more to go through than the other because there's a preparatory order. And that changes a little bit of the way how to look at it as an enlightened Mason in your own personal life and making of it what it is that is in it for you. Your ability to think about it, think the information through, and share it, talk about it. Your proficiency has a very, very high chance of being a very impressive one, a very impressive performance on behalf of your education on this Rite and on Freemasonry, right? And on this organization, right? Because you're looking, so imagine you think about it in two-way traffic and not one-way. Two-way traffic, there's just vehicles and the abstract or peripheral vision that are passing, and so are you passing, right? And that's what traffic is. That's kind of how this would look for someone who's in the Rite of Strict Observance or someone who's in the Illuminati. They're going to find themselves in certain places passing along through there. And it's very interesting how that's going to play out, because it's not based on the construction of the system. It's based on some of the information existing in each of them nonetheless. So you are still studying the first, second, and third degree, whether you're in the Rite of Strict Observance or in Illuminati. But you, depending on which one you're in, comparably are moving at a different pace inevitably. So when the time comes for you to be in the third degree and you're in the Illuminati, you're also in the Minerval assemblies when you're talking in terms of your philosophy, the dialogue we're to visit or explore more profoundly the Minerval class or grade, you're in the third degree. If you're talking to someone from the Rite of Strict Observance, they don't have there are no Minerval assemblies, but there is a third degree. So you've got to explain how the third degree system, work is done in the Minerval assemblies, right? While still knowing that your brother or sister is just as well aware of the third degree in general. So very, very, very pretty significant thing there. From the Templar perspective, the Rite was born chaotically at the Convention of Attenborough in 1764, after a gentleman named Luch passed himself off as a superior of the Templars named Johnson. As we heard earlier, this Rite began or was approved at a convention, and it as well faded away at a convention. The levels, the degrees I want to talk about Rite of Strict Observance, Illuminati. We did just talk about the levels of governance, the administrative level and the local level of each, the Rite of Strict Observance and the Illuminati. But that's governance. Now here, let's listen in there about the degrees. Right? Again, Freemasonry has no preparatory order. The Rite of Strict Observance does not have a preparatory order. Illuminati has a preparatory order, which means non-Masonic. Right? So you must be initiated to a lodge that has an Illuminati body in order to be an enlightened Mason, essentially. Even though in Illuminati there are the 3 degrees of Freemasonry, it is non-Masonic because it has a preparatory order. Right? So you can't just be an Illuminati or an illuminated one and be Masonic as well in an organizational way. Right? In a competitive way, I'm not really into the competition. I've seen it. I've done my share of competing, but I actually did mine non-verbally or a cappella. I learned the composition and the posture of the Enlightened Mason. I mastered public square, attending public broadcasts, live, news wire channel syndications and things like that to just prove I, as a single Mason, am really having the time of my life, having been accepted once upon a time as a Masonic brother. It's not just about being in Freemasonry, but being accepted one-on-one in this dialogue that I share with this brother who's passed on to the Grand Lodge of above now, who initiated me about a Mason. Essentially, in the mirror, he was telling me all about himself. Right? And so it takes being initiated into a lodge, not just being initiated into the organization of Illuminati. Well, that's different in my opinion, because my philosophy is when organization is added onto the word Illuminati, then it is not that just Illuminati. It's not just about illumination. It's about faith and hope and charity, temperance, prudence, fortitude, justice, Masonic law, jurisprudence, brotherly love, relief, and truth. Everything that is about Freemasonry, when organization is put onto the word Illuminati. If it is left to be its Illuminati self, its illuminated self, then it is not Masonic. No matter what degrees you experience and find that they are also experiencing these degrees in Freemasonry, it is non-Masonic unless you join a Masonic lodge that has Illuminati organization in it and its curriculum. Right? The Rite of Strict Observance starts out at St. John's Lodge, while in the Illuminati, this is the preparatory order stage. So in the Rite of Strict Observance, you're starting out in St. John's Lodge. On the same note, if it were the shoe on the other foot and you were in the Illuminati, you would not be in St. John's Lodge yet. You'd be in a preparatory order. St. John's Lodge is still to come, even in Illuminati. And so in the St. John's Lodge, there's the Entered Apprentice degree, then there's the Fellow Craft degree, then there's the Master Mason Masonic degrees, Freemasonic degrees. Then you go to St. Andrew's Lodge, and you go to the 4th degree in the Rite of Strict Observance, which is the Scots Master. And this is also in the outer order. There's an inner order as well to the Rite of Strict Observance. And that inner order is consisting of 2 degrees, one more than the 4th or the outer order, which is the Scots Master. That is the secular novice degree and the Night degree. And these are capitular, right? They are really encompassing or dealing with Christianity, right? And so that is the inner order. So in the Rite of Strict Observance, there are the 3 Blue Lodge degrees or Craft degrees, followed by the outer order, which is 1 degree, the Scots Master, the 4th degree, and followed by the inner order, which is composed of 2 degrees, the Secular Novice degree and the Night degree. So 6 altogether in the Rite of Strict Observance. Now, again, I say it again, St. John's Lodge is also going to be happening in the Illuminati. Its preparatory order is going to start out in the beginning for the initiate at novice, not entered apprentice. After novice, a Minerval degree. And then the Minervalis Illuminatus, illumination, or degrees of illuminated ones. Then there's class 2. If you got upper class, middle class, lower class, class 1, class 2, class 3, you've got here after the preparatory order of Illuminati, there is the 2nd class, which is the Freemasonic class. And then you're in the St. John's Lodge, right? So when you hear 3 degrees of class or grades in the Rite of Strict Observance, a person is finished. Because by the time you finish the Minerval, remember there are 6 degrees in the Rite of Strict Observance. And in the Illuminati, with its preparatory order, you've got 6 degrees to just get out of the St. John's Lodge. You still to get into the St. Andrew's Lodge. And by the time you do that, a student or initiated in the Rite of Strict Observance will have been through the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, as well as the outer and inner order of the Rite of Strict Observance. And that would be 6 degrees. And so in the 2nd class in Illuminati, you're in the Freemasonic class, and now you're in the St. John's Lodge. And you're also into the Apprentice degree, then the Fellowcraft degree, and the Master Mason degree. Right? Then you're into the St. Andrew's Lodge, where you're studying more than the Scots Master. You've been studying the Scots Master degree. You're studying the Scottish Novice degree and the Scottish Knight degree. Right? In St. Andrew's Lodge, it offers 1 degree for the Rite of Strict Observance, and it offers 2 for the Illuminati. Then after those 2 in the St. Andrew's Lodge, where in the Rite of Strict Observance, you'd be finished. You'd have all 6. Right? It's finished, figuratively speaking. You're now if you're in Illuminati, not finished after the St. Andrew's Lodge degrees. You're now in the 3rd class, a different class that is known as the Mysteries class. This is what Brother Weishaupt won his hands on, is why he went into Freemasonry. In the Mysteries class, you start in the lesser mysteries and you go into the greater mysteries. But in the lesser mysteries, there are 2 to deal with and learn. And that they are the presbyter, or the priest, and the regent. The regent, back from, we talked about the governance and the 2 governance levels of the Rite of Strict Observance and the Illuminati, which is at the administrative level and the local level. And in the administrative level, the Illuminati has a region in its national branch or government system, whereas in the Rite of Strict Observance, there's a province with a province Grand Master. We went over that. So here in the 3rd class, in the Mysteries class, starting in the lesser mysteries, we're learning about the presbyter or priest, and we also learn about the regent, equal to the province Grand Master in the Rite of Strict Observance, administrative level wise, when we're talking the governance of these orders. After the lesser mysteries, we go to the greater mysteries, and there are Two, in the greater mysteries, as were in the lesser mysteries, to learn about, but they are not the same. The first one is the Docetists, 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 and the philosophers, not philosophers, the philosophers or philosophos, right? There is no class for the greater mysteries. We talked a little bit about this when we talked about the Minerval assemblies. They do work the third degree, but working the third degree in the Illuminati, in the St. Andrew, in the St. John's Lodge, as the Rite of Strict Observance works the third degree in the St. John's Lodge, this Rite of Strict Observance does not have Minerval assemblies to talk about the third degree in the St. John's Lodge. And so there is no class for the greater mysteries either in the Illuminati. And so the biggest catalyst, if you will, here that I want to have taken away from this lecture is the fact that the inner order of the Rite of Strict Observance is of or relating to an ecclesiastical chapter. It's, in other words, relating to the Christian church or its clergy. So those giving the dedicated individual to this protection, service, and advancement of the human species as an enlightened Mason is going to have its grip as long as personal development is important in one's personal daily life experiences, fellowshipping, networking with your fellow Discordians, networking from superiors to subordinates, from subordinates to superiors, networking, meeting on the level of equality, right? And staying enthused about learning more about our gentle craft as it gets more esoteric, if that might happen to be the case, if it gets more theological or more philosophical, right? In terms of sciences, if it happens to become more behavioral, more formal, or more natural, you know, our cultural knowledge in history, in art, in literature, when we do perform, you know, periodically, a general evaluation of knowledges, right? Or general evaluations of knowledge. It puts pieces together that weren't already separated. In the sublime degree, in the sublime raising, they have dissembled at the point when we start to interact based on this information. And having exchanged information, we've come to grips with the reality of consciousness via chemical and electrical signals in the brain. We've now cognitively, psychologically, and philosophically put together something that states or says for us for the moment that we are constructive. And we are so constructive in speculative masonry as free Masons or enlightened Masons that we need not carry much of a report or record on the dissembling of things, because in a philosophical mind state, whenever we enter into Masonic intercourse, we dissemble things then, right? And over the course of Masonic intercourse, that thing we dissembled manually, metaphor, because this is really socially, we put back together. So what the picture here is, brethren and sisters, we don't just take things apart and leave them. We know that's not discordianism in a way, right? These things make sense. These things are organized and in order and harmonious. What we've got to do is understand the direction from which they come, where they originally come from, where the source of them are, where their base is, where they start from. And the confusion many, I think, are making is thinking that it's something that is outside of the self, to physically be able to see as a tangible thing that's evidence that something needs to be constructed or deconstructed. When cognitively, a lot of it is our thinking. That's the dissembling, and that is the assembling as well. When we're alone, we look for things in a tangible way to convince us. But when we are interactive, we get a lot of the chemistry, a lot of the signaling and the electrical waves that, satisfy us enough for what it is that is for us to see a thing, right? We can see it in the same way, but we've got an experience to bond with that is going to impact how relevant it is to our goal for the day, goal during the hour following, approaching the lunch hour, or an hour following our last hour before we're done with our shift for the day on a job, right? So it's the cloud of general mass population, world crises, epidemics, pandemics. That is when we as enlightened Masons come together to talk, to interact, we dissemble the cloud in those mysteries, the bubble we handle, right, as a service to humanity, and in turn to, our gentle crowd, right, from our own respective professions and walks of life. It's how we say thank you, right, for something besides an award or degree or something like that. Some of the more common ways or means by which we would feel that type of urge, to practice those norms. We've got to have norms when you're inside the Judaism node gate, as well as when you're on the outside of the Judaism node gate. Norms have got to take a play. We've got to generate that cycle, to put them or give them room to fall in play with things that are already in play. We've put them there, or they've, intrinsically taken course, right? But the idea is that we have got to understand some of the untangible meanings of things that we say and words that we use. We've got to know how to dissemble without putting our hands on a thing. That's an operative masonry, to put our hands on a thing and build with the square and with the chisel, right, and the compass, right? But when we're going to build symbolically off of what we've learned about those tools, we need not use the hands and to construct these objects, right? We need to use the mind. We need to use the spirit, the spirituality connection there, and the general norms, the commonwealth, the practices that we get all other places, right? With the exception of our own respective lodge or Masonic jurisdictions, where we are on a Masonic agenda. Then we've got to implement, right? We've got to see how in the Rite of Strict Observance and the Illuminati examples, how there's a St. John's Lodge in either one. There's a St. Andrew's Lodge degrees in either one. One's a preparatory order and one isn't. So you're not progressing at the same time, but you are progressing through the degrees or the grades at the same rate, because it is the same information. Now this will be a different discussion for a different time, with the exception here of there being no clouds for the greater mysteries. In the capitular type of way that this rite of strict observance is, there might lead, and as well with the preparatory order for the Illuminati, that might leave some room for some philosophy or some explanations on how to compensate, if you will, for the time period, right? How to make up in time where you are in the rituals and where these things have taken place by the landmarks, etc. As well about the Minerval assemblies, because the Minerval assemblies, well, they are in a preparatory order of the Illuminati, and the Rite of Strict Observance does not have a preparatory order. It doesn't have a Minerval grade. It doesn't have a novice grade, a Minerval grade, a Minervalis Illuminatus grade before it starts to enter the apprentice first degree of Freemasonry. It starts at the Freemasonry in the first degree, right? So how to, in time, of course, in literature, we're going to look at it and agree and we'll see it. But when we are talking in society as beings and professionals, influencers, motivators, leaders, scholars, catalysts, we've got to practice how to. This is called applied masonry. We've got to practice applied masonry just as we practice speculative masonry, just as we practice operative masonry. We've got to practice applied masonry. We've got to practice contemplative masonry, a meditative kind of masonry. There's a lot of different types of masonry, and they are all in, since applied masonry, they are directed and designed to pan the balances or differences between those who are Masonic members and non-Masonic members in the entire universe. In our grocery stores, in our cosmetology laboratories, in our libraries, in our conference rooms, we've got to learn how these things are level, and how they forge the equality between human beings. We can't have Masons on one side of a room and it's designated for Masons, in a room where anyone in the public, in other words, is welcome, and on the other side, non-Masonic related attendees, and expect to build a society that way. Everybody's got to look like they look. If some of them are supposed to be speakers and they'll dress the same in a uniform and they'll be called out by the host on the podium or at the podium one at a time, and they're to remain in the audience before it's their turn to speak, what good is going to do if one of them is also a Mason and one isn't? They've each got to represent this other neutral party, if you will, here in this immediate event or function, and in their own respective capacity. Maybe each of them are officers, members of the board. You cannot have a tight grip on your personality and your character, on your intelligence, right? In this organization, having just gotten all of your natural education from a child up to the age to where you want to become a member of this organization, and just leave all of those foundational principles and virtues and morals alone or out of the picture, right? They're going to relive themselves or live on in a different attribute of you. So we can't let them go and on top of it have added on to our load, if you will, membership in this organization. And we still carry on our day-to-day lives, right? So, yeah. I'm glad you had the opportunity to sit in a lecture. I'm glad I had the exciting and spontaneous chance to lecture on the Rite of Strict Observance. I really enjoyed and learned a lot about it. I respect this fraternity to the utmost, and each individual brother or sister is the reason why, right? It's not just a name on a banner, Freemasonry or Illuminati or whatever. It's each human being that I've interacted with that has grown in me this trust for my intuition And with that being said, I mean, with regards to believing there are positive minds here to meet, have not met yet, and that exciting me. It does not wear off because of ones I've already met. So I hope you found this helpful. We meet upon the level of equality. We act by the plumb of uprightness, and we part upon the square of virtues. As above, so below.